been an easier day, not been quite so full on, which is why I thought I got this one in the hotel bar, which is overlooking a very busy road, but it comes with its own sort of air conditioning, which is quite nice, sort of a misty affair. So of the 4 cellists, I heard 2 that I really connected with. Rustum, I'm sure that's not how you pronounce his name, and who's the other one? It was the guy from Taiwan. I heard those 2. They had 2 entirely different styles. The guy from Taiwan who was on first, I mean, he was very focused in the first round in his playing. Here it was as though he had a new lease of life and had been given permission to be a much bigger personality on stage. Really attacked the music, and had this brilliant focus, brilliant attention that was captivating. Rustum was an entirely different player and produced an entirely different tone. Still had this really strong bow which produced a consistent tone, and he had this sort of unfussiness to his playing, which was really rather charming. It was almost like modesty. He was really into it, really extracted all of the emotion from the music, but was doing so in a really unfussy way. Fedor, the other Russian chap, entirely different character, much bigger, really tall, really imposing chap, almost hugged the cello and attacked it. He was the demonstrative player that I talked about yesterday. So when you had him followed by Rustum, who was a much more sort of charming, still as engaged, still as emotional, still as expressive, but in a slightly less fussy way, I really warmed to his playing in a way that I didn't really as much with Fedor this time in the second round. When you've had 2 days of Bach and Schubert, and you've sort of almost been immersed in that work, and you've listened to it a lot, when you then shift from Bach and Schubert to Beethoven, the contrast in compositional style is stark. It's like moving from the junior school to the senior school in the space of 6 or 7 weeks, and having much more difficult textbooks to read. I'm in no way making a judgment on how Bach is more straightforward than Beethoven. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that the contrast is really striking. In the Beethoven, I'm struck by how complicated it is, how cacophonous the sound is, how there are so many different statements being made by one voice. It's almost operatic in places, Beethoven's Sonata No. 3, and that makes it fiendish and complicated, because surely you're having to, it's not where in Schubert you're presenting one character. In the Beethoven, it felt like the musician was having to present multiple characters or multiple personalities in the space of one movement, in different phrases, playing different phrases with a different style, and that in contrast, I'm a Beethoven, absolute nightmare, real nightmare, a really demanding play. I appear to have developed some taste around my own personal taste around what sort of cello sound I like, and I didn't really expect this to happen at all. Given that an instrument can be made up of different types of wood, can have different types of lacquer applied, it can be made in an entirely different way. It can have bigger F-holes, it can have a different style of wood in the neck and different style of wood in the bridge. I mean, there are so many different elements, and then build onto that the bow, the fact there are so many different elements of the bow, and then you've got a different playing technique. There are multiple different sounds that can be produced from one instrument, and multiple different sounds that can be produced from a series of instruments. So consequently, that's why there is so much variety. When you go to a concert, you don't hear multiple cellos playing in a solo recital, you hear one. So you don't really hear very much contrast. When you do hear the contrast, then you start coming up with preferences. And my preference was for actually the sound that Fedor was producing, which was a much rounder edged sound, sort of softer, almost muffled, definitely warm. That to me felt like a warm sound. The Taiwanese chap had a very, very bright tone. Bright almost to the point that it felt like the bow was scraping on the string. The bow wasn't scraping on the strings. He knows what he's doing. He's really good. But after a while I began to think, actually I'm not sure that I like that sound, really. This sounds really detailed. I don't want to be really nerdy about it, but this is what happens when you hear nothing but cellos all day long. I just don't like the bright, clear sound that we heard from the first guy, really. That's not to my taste. So I'm having this conversation. I happen to be having this conversation with one of the jury members during lunch. A very civilised restaurant where the cheese board is served first. Very good. And good cheeses too, really. Not a stick of celery in sight either. Very, very good cheese. So this jury member was telling me there were questions being passed around the jury about, at lunch, about what instrument is Taiwanese chap playing on. And somebody said, oh, we think it's French, or we think it's Italian, or it might be this or like that. And that provided me with the lead to say, actually, how can you tell whether it's French or Italian? And it turns out that actually they could tell because of the style of the neck, the curve, the neck curl thing at the end of the fingerboard, and the size of the F holes. Very specific nerdy detail that I really like. And then I asked him about the sound, and he was saying, well, the French stuff has a really bright, clean tone to it. I really like it. He said, I really like it. And I was out there thinking, oh, that's good then, given that you're a member of the jury and I'm not.